I want to tell you about the teeth. I know how that sounds. I know this entire story sounds like something someone made up to get attention on the internet. I've thought about that a lot over the past 3 years. Every time I consider sharing this, I imagine the comments, fake, clout chasing, creative writing exercise. I've read those comments on other people's stories. I used to write them myself. But here's the thing. I have the photographs. 4 of them. Taken on my phone on October 14th, 2022, on a trail in the North Cascades in Washington State. The metadata is intact. The GPS coordinates are embedded. The photos show exactly what I'm about to describe. I offered to send them to the person who runs this channel. He asked me not to. He said the story was enough. So here's the story. My girlfriend, now my wife, and I went backpacking for our anniversary. We found human teeth arranged on rocks along the trail. And the last arrangement included a note with a date on it. The date was the next day. Erin and I had been together for 3 years. We were both outdoor people. That was one of the first things we bonded over. Weekend hikes, car camping, the occasional overnight backpacking trip. Nothing extreme, nothing technical. We liked being in the woods. It was our thing. For our 3rd anniversary, I planned a 3-day backpacking trip on a trail in North Cascades. I'm not going to name the specific trail. I've thought about it, and I just don't want to. People who know the area might figure it out from the details, and that's fine. But I'm not going to put the name in writing. What I'll tell you is that it's a well-known route. Not a hidden gem, not a secret trail. It's in guidebooks. It has a permit system. During peak season, you'd see a dozen groups a day on the first few miles. We went in mid-October, which is shoulder season. Fewer people, cooler weather, better colors. We picked up our permit at the ranger station on a Thursday morning. The ranger who processed us was friendly, normal, told us about a bridge washout on mile 8 that required a creek ford, reminded us about bear canister regulations, and wished us a good trip. Standard interaction. Nothing unusual. Day 1 was perfect. 12 miles to our first campsite, mostly along a river valley with the mountains opening up on both sides. We passed maybe 6 or 7 other groups heading out as we were heading in. The trail was well maintained, clearly marked, easy to follow. We got to camp around 4, set up, cooked dinner, watched the sunset turn the peaks pink. Erin said it was the best anniversary gift she'd ever gotten. We went to sleep listening to the river. Day 1 was the last normal day of the trip. We broke camp around 7:30 and started hiking. The plan was to cover about 9 miles to our second campsite, which sat at the edge of a high alpine meadow near a small lake. The trail climbed steadily through old-growth forest before opening up above the tree line. The first thing I noticed, and I didn't think anything of it at the time, was that we hadn't seen anyone. Day 1, we'd passed half a dozen groups. By 10 o'clock on day 2, we hadn't seen a single person. No one coming toward us, no one behind us. Just empty trail. Shoulder season, I told myself. Midweek. People have jobs. Around 11, we stopped for a water break at a spot where the trail crossed a small feeder creek. There was a large, flat rock beside the trail, the kind hikers use as a bench. It was about waist high, maybe 3 feet across, with a smooth top surface. On the surface of the rock, arranged in a circle about 6 inches in diameter, was a small collection of what I initially thought were pebbles. Erin saw them first. She leaned in closer and then straightened up very fast. "Those are teeth," she said. I looked. She was right. They were teeth. Human teeth. Small, white, slightly irregular in shape the way real teeth are, not uniform like novelty props or Halloween decorations. There were maybe 8 or 9 of them, and they were arranged in a careful, deliberate circle on the flat surface of the rock, evenly spaced, precise. Like someone had taken time with the placement. Roughly a mile later, maybe 45 minutes of hiking, Erin stopped ahead of me on the trail and said, "There's another one, another flat rock, trail side." And on it, another arrangement of teeth. This circle was larger, maybe 10 inches across. More teeth, 12 or 13 of them. Same careful, even spacing. Same deliberate placement. These weren't tossed onto the rock. These were set down, one, by someone who was being precise about where each tooth went. I didn't think it was a prank anymore. I took a second photo. We stood there looking at it for a minute without saying much. Aaron asked me what I wanted to do. I said we should keep going. We were more than halfway to our campsite, and turning back meant a long return hike with limited daylight. I told her it was probably some kind of weird trail installation, maybe an art project, maybe someone studying decomposition patterns, or animal scavenging behavior. I was reaching. I knew I was reaching. But I wasn't ready to say out loud what we were both thinking, which was that these were real human teeth, and someone had placed them here for us to find. I say, for us to find, because of what I noticed about the placement. Both arrangements were trail-side. Not off-trail, not hidden, not in the woods where you'd have to look for them. They were on prominent flat rocks directly beside the path, at eye level, in positions where any hiker walking this route would see them. They were meant to be found. We kept hiking. The forest was quiet. I realized I hadn't heard a bird in at least 20 minutes. The third arrangement was about 3/4 of a mile after the second. We almost missed it because it wasn't on a rock. It was on a section of flat, exposed root that crossed the trail, a large cedar root that had been worn smooth by boot traffic. This circle was larger, about 14 inches in diameter. At least 20 teeth. Same spacing, same precision, but there was something different about these. They were organized. I don't mean arranged in a circle. I mean organized within the circle. The teeth in the outer ring were smaller. Incisors, maybe, or premolars. The inner teeth were larger, molars. They were sorted by size, with the largest teeth in the center and the smallest on the outside. Someone who understood dental anatomy had done this. I took a third photo. Aaron was holding my arm, not in a romantic way, in a we need to leave way. I knelt down, not touching anything, and looked more closely than I had at the first two. The teeth were clean, not bleached clean, not scrubbed, but fresh. No dirt in the grooves, no yellowing from age, no moss, no discoloration from sitting exposed to weather. Wherever these teeth had come from, they hadn't been here long. Days, maybe. Hours, possibly. And there were too many of them. An adult human has 32 teeth. Between the three arrangements, I'd counted roughly 40. These were not all from the same person. Aaron said very calmly, "We need to go back." I said, "I know," but I didn't move yet, because I had noticed something else at the edge of the third circle that the first two hadn't had. A piece of paper. Folded once. Tucked under the outermost tooth on the side closest to the trail, like it had been placed there, so the tooth would hold it in position against the wind. I didn't want to touch it. I used a trekking pole to slide the tooth off the paper's edge, and then used the tip of the pole to unfold it. It was a small piece of paper, maybe 3 by 4 inches, standard notebook paper, the kind with faint blue lines. It had been torn from a notebook, not cut. The torn edge was on the left side. On the paper, written in neat black ink, not printed, handwritten in small, careful block letters, was a date, October 15th. That was tomorrow. Nothing else. No words, no message, no name. Just a date, written in the center of the paper, in handwriting that was precise and unhurried. Someone had taken their time writing it. The letters were evenly spaced, evenly sized, with consistent pressure. This was not scrawled in a rush. This was composed. I took a photo of the note. It's the fourth photo, the one I look at the least. Here's what the date meant to me in that moment, and here's what it still means to me now. Whoever placed these teeth on this trail knew that someone would find them. The trail-side placement made that obvious from the first arrangement. But the note proved something worse. Whoever placed them didn't just know someone would come along. They knew when. The date was tomorrow. Not last week, not next month. Tomorrow. Which meant one of two things. Either the note had been placed very recently, within the last day, by someone who was anticipating that a hiker would find it before the date arrived. Or the note had been placed specifically for us. Left on our route, on our timeline, by someone who knew where we were going and when we would get there. Our itinerary was on file at the ranger station. We'd filled out a permit with our planned route, our campsites, and our dates. The ranger had a copy. The system had a copy. Anyone with access to the permit records would know exactly where we'd be on October 14th and what trail we'd be walking. I don't know which interpretation is worse. We turned around. We didn't discuss it. Erin was already walking, and I was half a step behind her. We left our second night's campsite reservation unfilled and started the 9 miles back to the trailhead. The hike out took about 4 hours. We moved fast. We didn't stop for water, didn't stop for food, didn't stop for anything. We passed the third arrangement, the second and the first on the way back. All of them were still there. Untouched. Same spacing, same precision. We didn't see a single other person on the trail. 9 miles of a well-known route in a national park on a Thursday in October, and we didn't see one human being. I've thought about that a lot. During peak season, we'd have passed dozens of people. Even in shoulder season, we'd passed 6 or 7 on day 1. On day 2, the day we found the teeth, we saw no one. The trail was empty, like it had been cleared. We reached the trailhead around 5:30, packed the car, and drove directly to the ranger station. It was still open. The same ranger who'd processed our permit was at the desk. I told him what we'd found. I showed him the photos on my phone. He looked at the photos for a long time. He zoomed in on the third arrangement, the one with the teeth sorted by size. He zoomed in on the note. He didn't say anything while he was looking. Then he said, "I'm going to make a copy of these and file a report. Can I get your contact information?" I gave him my phone number and email. I asked if anyone else had reported anything like this. He said he couldn't discuss other reports. I asked if there had been any missing person cases on that trail. He said he couldn't discuss that either. I asked him what he thought the teeth were. He looked at me and said, "I don't want to speculate." That answer has kept me awake more than the teeth themselves. I waited for a follow-up call. A week. 2 weeks. A month. Nothing. I called the ranger station in November. The person who answered said they didn't have any record of my report. I gave my name, the date, the trail. They said they'd look into it and get back to me. They never did. I called again in December. Different person. Same response. No record. They'd look into it. I stopped calling after that. In January, I searched online for any reports of human remains found on that trail. Nothing. I searched for missing person cases in the park from October 2022. Nothing public. I searched for any discussion of teeth found on trails anywhere in the Pacific Northwest. I found 2 threads, one on a hiking forum from 2019, one on Reddit from 2021, where people described finding small arrangements of what looked like teeth on rocks beside trails in Washington state. Neither of those posts got much traction. The Reddit one had 3 upvotes, and one comment that said, "Probably animal teeth." Maybe they were animal teeth. Maybe all of them were. Maybe the staining I saw was natural discoloration, and the pink material at the base of that one tooth was plant matter, and the sorting by size was coincidental, and the note was left by a different person for a different reason, and the date was a meaningless coincidence. Maybe. I look at the photograph sometimes, and I try to convince myself of that. The 4th photo, the one with the note, makes it difficult. Erin and I got married the following June. We still hike. We still camp. But we don't backpack in the North Cascades anymore. And when we're on a trail and we pass a flat rock, I look at the surface before I look at the view. October 15th was 3 years ago. I don't know what that date meant. I don't know if something was supposed to happen and didn't, because we left. I don't know if something happened to someone else, because we weren't there. I don't know if the teeth are still being placed on that trail. I don't know if the circles are getting larger. I just know that someone put them there. And someone knew we were coming. If you've found something on a trail that shouldn't have been there, teeth, bones, arrangements of objects, notes, anything that felt deliberate and wrong, we want to hear about it. Especially if it was in Washington State. Especially if it was in the North Cascades. We are paying attention, even if the ranger station isn't. Email your account to the address in the description. And if you're new here, start from the beginning. Something Followed Us on the Winding Stair Trail is linked below. We post new stories every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Watch the rocks.